Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here this morning to start my mid-month book bash vlog. I am gonna get started the right way this time and just film my little intro piece while I'm sitting here in the parking lot of Lowe's. My husband is inside getting stuff that he needs, and of course this is primo reading time. So it is Friday morning. I am off work today, obviously, since I'm sitting in the parking lot of Lowe's, and my goal for this weekend is to read 1,200 pages and to really make some progress through a bunch of books. So the book that I am going to be working on this morning is my Buddy Read with Britta. This is The Code Breaker by Walter Isaacson. And this is the story, sorry about the glare, this is a library copy. This is the story of Jennifer Doudna, who is one of the primary scientists involved in the creation of CRISPR, the gene editing tool. And so this one, the subtitle is Jennifer Doudna, Gene Editing and the Future of the Human Race. And so I've read the first two parts of this, and I'm going to be reading part 3 for check-in this weekend with Britta. And this book is really, really well told. A lot of sort of excitement to the narrative, which is interesting for a very science-heavy book. Isaacson does a really great job of describing very technical scientific information in a way that makes sense for the layperson. So I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. And he imbues the text with sort of this this excitement and this drive that makes you feel like you need to know what happens. So I'm enjoying that. And I'm also enjoying the aspect of this book that talks about what it's like to be a woman in the professional sciences, especially in the type of science work that Doudna has been involved in her whole career, where you're developing information that can be used to help people. And there's more, what's the word I want? Like, there's a lot of things that can be patented and then used to create products. So that's a different type of science than the kind of science I'm involved in. And it's been very interesting to read about that aspect of things, and also about what it's like for women to work in this very competitive scientific field, because it's not an area that women have traditionally been allowed to participate in. So if you look back at like the initial discovery of the structure of DNA and how Rosalind Franklin was sort of cut out of all of that, that's described in the first 2 parts of this book. And it's very, very frustrating as a woman scientist to think about how hard it has been for women to sort of break into this field, this professional field. So definitely am enjoying this, and I'm looking forward to reading part 3. So that's my little brief check-in. Like I said, I hope to read 1,200 pages this mid-month book bash, and really like sort of jumpstart my July reading, which has been pretty slow so far because just there's been a lot of social events going on surrounding 4th of July weekend, and then my work schedule has been extremely busy. So just needed to have a weekend where I can get focused on my reading again. So looking forward to that, and I will check in with you along the way. Saturday morning, and I've been reading up a storm. So since I checked in yesterday, I did read part 3 of Codebreaker by Walter Isaacson, and it was very good. And so part 3 was all about, what's the word? Patent battles between a whole bunch of different scientists and institutions over who was going to get the patent for the CRISPR technology. And you are now saying to yourself, Heidi, patent battles sound about as boring as could possibly be imagined. But indeed, Walter Isaacson makes it very, very interesting. And it's mostly due to the fact that he does such a good job of describing all the different personalities involved, of all the different scientists and all the different players. And he writes about each of them in a way that lets you see, like, nobody's made out to be like a true villain, and although each person has their own aspects of, questionable behavior, but they're all just humans trying to be successful. And, they, quite a good deal of them have a competitive nature. So they're all trying to be the first to do something, right? And so they want to succeed. And so they may make questionable decisions, but you can totally see the viewpoint of why they would make those decisions, which is a very interesting, like, I'm really glad that the nuances are there in this book, and like, people aren't made out to be like bad or good. Like, there's gray areas in every single one of these people. And I think that's way more realistic for human nature. So very much enjoyed part 3, continuing to really enjoy that book overall. Last night I had insomnia, so I stayed up and finished a novella that I've been working on ebook, and that is a book called What Willow Says by Lynn Buckle. And I was lucky enough to be able to read this book because of a very generous gift from the publisher Epoch through Sean the Book Maniac. So Sean has a review up on his channel for this book. I will link it down below. And after he read it, he thought that it was a Heidi book. So he asked the publisher if it would be all right if he shared the ebook with me. And they very generously said that would be all right. And so he did, and I read it, and it was lovely. So What Willow Says is a novella. It takes place in Ireland. Lynn Buckle is an Irish writer. And it's the story of a grandmother and her deaf granddaughter. And it's written in an interesting way. It's almost like diary entries. So each little section starts with like sort of a weather report and an outlook report. And I really enjoyed that formatting and how the book was laid out. And it really, it's so interesting. So much of the book resonated with me because of a book that I just recently read, Diary of a Young Naturalist by Dara McAnulty, which also takes place in Ireland, is about the natural environment in Ireland, and is written as journal entries. So there was like some synchronicity between these two reads, even though What Willow Says is a novel, or I should say it's a novella and it's fiction. But so this story of this grandmother and her granddaughter who are learning to communicate using sign language that is the granddaughter, who is 7, is learning standardized sign language, and the grandmother is not doing very well at learning the sign language, but they have sort of a made up sign language between the two of them to help them communicate. And part of their communication is all about the natural world around them. The grandmother's an artist, and she's been working on this like compendium of trees in Ireland. And so she and her granddaughter connect through this work and through going out into the bogs and the woods and the natural world around them and looking at trees and connecting with trees. And the granddaughter always wants to know what the trees are saying. And she asks her grandmother to listen for her and hear what the trees are saying. And it's just written so beautifully. The language is very poetic in places. It's just really lovely and resonant of the natural world. And I really, really enjoyed that aspect of it. I also really enjoyed the aspect of this relationship between grandmother and granddaughter. There's mythology woven in, Irish mythology woven in. It's just a lovely, lovely book. It really is very touching. I don't want to talk too much about what happens because I think there's some spoilers there and I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. But if you like nature writing and if you like sort of quiet stories about family connections and you're interested in a story told from a different perspective. Lynn Buckle is also a deaf person, so she really understands, she really writes believably about how a person would be living with deafness and how a hearing person would relate to a deaf person, especially in this grandmother-granddaughter relationship. Just a beautiful, beautiful book. I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to read it. Thank you so much, Sean. It really was a Heidi book, and I loved it. And thank you to Epoch Publishing for the copy of that book so that I could read it. It was excellent. And it was published just recently, I think at the end of May. So it is available for purchase now. So I would highly, highly recommend that one. And then I've also finished this morning this sci-fi novel, Falling Free by Lois McMaster Bujold. And Bujold writes, this is in the Miles Verkorsigan universe, although this one takes place 200 years before Miles is born, so he's not in it. And this tells a story of, this is the background of a group of folks called Quaddies who show up later on in some of the Miles stories, but this story is specifically about how they came to be. And so Leo Graff is sent to this far-off space station to do some training. He's an engineer. He's very much by the book kind of guy. And he's been doing his job for like 20 years and he's very good at it. So he shows up on this planet and he is sent out to this habitat that's like orbiting the planet to start this training. And he realizes that who he's training are a bunch of kids that this company have genetically engineered to work for them. So you have a group of people, well, not people, you have a group of, well, they are people, but you have a group of genetically engineered people who are being exploited by a company. And Leo, sorry, my hand is waggling. Let me see if I can adjust my grip here. So Leo has to decide if he is willing to risk his job to help these folks and how that help might work. So it is a space romp. It's an adventure. I guess space opera is the term that I would use. And they are like, it's very much also a, like a MacGyver in space kind of situation, because Leo is constantly faced with technological issues that he has to like problem solve in the moment with materials on hand. So if you like that kind of adventure story, this book delivers on the adventure, but it also delivers on some very thoughtful ideas about genetic manipulation, gene editing, what is the ethics and morals around that sort of thing. And I just found it to be a very engaging and quick read. And also like goes very nicely with reading Codebreaker at the same time, which is like real life gene editing. So yeah, some connections here between my reading, which is always fun and I always enjoy. So that's where we're at here on Saturday. I am going to continue reading and I will check back in with you later. Hey there, it's Sunday morning and I wanted to report on my reading. So I have finished Notes on a Silencing by Lacy Crawford, and this is a memoir that I read for the BookTube Prize. This was the last book that I had to read for this round of the BookTube Prize. Sorry for the glare on this library copy. So I can't talk about it, but I did finish this morning. And so another one down. I'm at about 675 pages read total for the weekend. It's Sunday morning, like I said. So I gotta jump to it if I really want to meet my 1,200 page goal for the weekend. Although I do have tomorrow, but I have to go back to work tomorrow. So obviously not going to get as much reading done tomorrow. I am going to start Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Boulley today. And this is a YA novel, so hopefully it will read quickly. I mistakenly said that this was fantasy when I hauled it, and I was kindly corrected in my comments to say that this is not a fantasy novel. This is more of a mystery, I guess. So, yeah, either way, I'm excited to read it. I was first became aware of this book from Karen Evans, and I believe this takes place in Michigan, and it's written by an Indigenous author. So, I think this cover is amazing, and I'm excited to get started. So I will check in with you later. it's Monday night and I need to wrap up this mid-month book bash vlog. So I did meet my goals. I wanted to read 1,200 pages and I actually read more than 1,200 pages. And the reason why I was able to do that is all because of this book, Firekeeper's Daughter, which I started yesterday. And I read the first 200 pages on Sunday, and then I could not stop reading this book today. It is so good. Everybody that's been raving about this book, it's absolutely true. You should definitely pick it up. So this is, it's labeled as a YA thriller or suspense, but I would actually say this is not a book for like younger child readers. Like, this is not a book for young teenagers. This is definitely an older YA book. Our main protagonist is 18 years old, Donis, and she is, that's probably not how you really supposed to say her name, but it's, you know, that's as close as I can get. Donis is Native American. She lives in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and she has just graduated from high school, and she's had some tragedy in her life, and so she's changing her plans. She had meant to go away to college, to the University of Michigan, and play hockey, but she is going to stay closer to home at the local state college and take up her studies there. And so we pick up the story at this point, and then like it's just a roller coaster ride. Like, stuff is going on in her community. She gets wrapped up in it. It is a thrilling, fast-paced story that you just have to keep turning the pages so that you can find out what happens. But it's also just imbued throughout with just awesome cultural references to the Anishinaabe tribe that is the tribe that Donis is a part of. So you get all this stuff about what it's like to live in that culture and to follow the cultural practices relating to the tribe. And it's awesome. It's so good. And there's so much in here about community and family and, you know, what's important in your life and what isn't important, and being true to yourself and finding your own way forward. And Donis is just this fabulous, fabulous character. She's such a strong person, and she goes through so much. I mean, this book just pulled me along. I could not put it down. Even though I had to work today and I had to leave my house at 5 a.m. and work a full day, like the minute I was done work, I could not. I had to pick this book back up, and I have literally done nothing other than cook supper and read this book for the whole rest of the night, because I just had to know what was going to happen to Donis. So highly recommend Firekeeper's Daughter if you want a fast-paced suspense novel with, you know, with Indigenous culture wrapped into it in a very, very excellent way. I should mention here that the author, Angeline Boulley, is herself Indigenous. She is a member of the Anishinaabe tribe. So, you know, you're in good hands with this book right here. Highly recommend. So let me just turn you around, show you my spread in my bullet journal so that you can see how I did. All right, so here we are. You can see each one of my little blocks was for 50 pages read, and I ended up reading 1,377 pages. This is a list of all the books that I was trying to work my way through. I did make very good progress in a bunch of different ones, and I completed 4 books over the 4 days. So I call that a very successful mid-month book bash for the month of July. Hope you've all been doing some great reading as well, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.